Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I will get started here in just a few moments. I'm going to give everyone time to get settled in and join the event. All right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Congresswoman Lucy McBath's K-12 education webinar with the Library of Congress. My name is Adam Veal, and I'm a Deputy Communications Director for Congresswoman McBath. We're gathered virtually in the midst of an ongoing pandemic, and as Georgia continues to navigate the coronavirus, all three school systems in Cobb, Fulton, and DeKalb counties have made the decision to start their school year on August 17th entirely via virtual learning. So to help prepare students, families, and educators to start a new school year under these unprecedented circumstances, Congresswoman McBath is convening this webinar with the Library of Congress. So we're joined by Dr. Carla Hayden, the Librarian of Congress, and Leanne Potter, the Director of Educational Outreach for the Library of Congress, to learn more about the wonderful digital resources the library has for students and educators. As a congressional office, we love the Library of Congress and all their wonderful staff, so we're very excited to have them with us this evening. So thank you all once again for joining, and now I'd like to hand things over to Congresswoman McBath.
Thank you so much, Adam, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm really excited for this evening. I'm so excited to convene this event to learn more about the many resources that the Library of Congress makes available to all of us. Whether you are a student or you're a parent or an educator, tonight's event will be focused on equipping you with the many virtual resources that the Library of Congress makes available as we prepare to start the school year. The Library of Congress is the largest library in the world and serves as the research arm of the United States Congress. Not only do Library of Congress staff assist me and my own office and my staff on a very regular basis in our legislative work and our constituent services, but the Library of Congress is also a resource for all Americans to enjoy and to learn from. That's why I'm so excited for tonight's event. You can start the new school year with additional tools and resources that will help you in your studies or your teaching if, as the parent, you're the teacher. I know that we say it often, but we really are living in unprecedented times. And students and families are concluding a summer that was spent largely at home. Vacations were put on hold and normal routines and plans were interrupted. As you all prepare to start a new school year, students and teachers alike are navigating virtual learning, a beginning to a school year which is unlike any other that we've ever had. When schools moved to virtual learning this spring, I was amazed at how quickly our students and our parents and teachers adjusted to our new learning at home. And I know that I have gained a great deal of experience with all the new technology to allow me to continue to do the work of serving you here in this district in Congress. And I have no doubt that you will all continue to find new and creative ways to stay connected in your virtual classrooms. And I hope that tonight's presentations will give you a few new ideas and helpful resources to assist you along the way. I am so thrilled tonight to be joined this evening by Dr. Carla Hayden, who is the Librarian of Congress. Dr. Hayden is the 14th Librarian of Congress and the first woman and the first African American to lead our National Library. She has served in this position since the summer of 2016. Before her nomination in 2016, Dr. Hayden served as a member of the National Museum and Library Services Board and also served as CEO of the Enoch Pratt Free Library in Baltimore, Maryland. Joining Dr. Hayden this evening is her colleague, Lee Ann Potter, who is the Director of the Educational Outreach for the Library of Congress. Lee Ann oversees a team at the Library of Congress that helps to develop the programs and materials that we're going to be discussing this evening. Before joining the Library of Congress, Lee Ann was herself an educator, and she also serves as a feature editor for the National Science Teachers Association and the National Council for the Social Studies. I am so thrilled to have these two remarkable women with me tonight to deliver their presentations on the Library of Congress's virtual learning resources. Dr. Hayden and Lee Ann will both deliver their presentations to us, and then I will ask them just a few questions from, these questions are from our audience that we received these questions during your registration. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Carla Hayden.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and we're so delighted to join you tonight because the Library of Congress, as you mentioned, serves Congress. We are the research arm for Congress, but we also are reaching out during this, yes, unprecedented time to let everyone know, especially educators, family members, and students, that the Library of Congress also serves the people that Congress serves. And we are a national treasure chest. In fact, we say as the world's largest library, we have something just about in every subject area and just about every format. And during the past few years, the library has made a concerted effort to digitize as many of our collections as possible. And right now we have 61 million items that are digitized and available on our website. And these materials cover a range of topics, but what we've done is group them together to put them in usable formats so that you can go on to our website, loc.gov, libraryofcongress.gov, and touch one thing, a page that we call Engage, E-N-G-A-G-E. And under that, you will see different programming ideas and different resources. For instance, the Library of Congress every year or two, and depending on the author, has a National Youth Ambassador for young people's literature. And we have Jason Reynolds, the very popular middle school author, who is our ambassador and doing virtual programming, interactive programming on that page. It's called Grab a Mic, and it encourages young people to tell their own stories, because during these times, it's important for us to hear their voices as well. We have a special series of conversations with authors talking about race in America, and that's in cooperation with the Smithsonian Institution. We also have the ever popular Dave Pilkey, and many of you know Dave Pilkey as the best-selling author of Captain Underpants and Dogman and graphic novels, who takes young people into his studio and encourages them and shows them how to make their own graphic novels. And then for families, because there's so many families that are becoming de facto educators and need activities. The Congresswoman, you mentioned that summer plans had been disrupted, and there might have been so many opportunities that we've had to forego. So we have activity kits under families. One that's my personal favorite is Cooking Up History, where we take historic recipes like Thomas Jefferson's macaroni recipe, and we have a library expert taking us through that, or like a cooking show. And Rosa Parks, she has a recipe in her own hand, and you'll see that, for peanut butter pancakes. And so this section takes you through that activity. We also have making cartoons and using things from our collection, historic cartoons that you can color and print and do things, design a lighthouse using our architectural drawings, and making a mini book and using our preservation efforts and showing people how to make a book and conserve things. You can introduce young people to Braille. The Library of Congress is the home of the services for the blind and print disabled. So we have special resources for people with reading difficulties. And then things like taking a nature walk with the words of Walt Whitman. And when I mentioned Rosa Parks, the Library of Congress is also the home to special collections that we have made into physical exhibits. And during this time, we have digitized those exhibits. And one that is so relevant to what we're thinking about and talking about today is the Rosa Parks collection. And that has been put online with a tour of the collection with an expert and a curator to take you through that. Also, women's suffrage. The Congresswoman, you mentioned Leanne Potter, and I have to give you a special insight into how important it is that we have someone working at the Library of Congress that can take those wonderful resources and head up a department that specializes in resources for educators. Leanne is an educator herself, but she brings teachers in during the summer, and she also works directly with educators all year round to make sure that what we present online is something that's useful. So I'm going to turn it over to Leanne at this point.
Thanks so much, Dr. Hayden. Appreciate it. I'm glad to be here tonight. Everything that you were just describing, I was jotting down some notes to myself because I'm, first of all, a huge fan of the Rosa Parks pancakes. So you're not kidding about those. There's something magical about peanut butter in a pancake. So of course, we want to encourage people to explore those recipes. In addition to the Engage and the Families websites that you mentioned, the library also has a website especially for teachers, and it's loc.gov/teachers. And through that portal, you can gather additional resources. When Dr. Hayden said we've got 61 million objects on the library's website, on the one hand, it's really exciting, and on the other hand, it's really daunting. One of the things that we've done in the teachers page is we've created sort of subsets of those 61 million objects, and we've called them primary source sets. And we've compiled resources from different collections, different media. We've got collections related to different topics that are taught across the curriculum that you can find on that section of the library's website. And in addition, we have resources there, especially for classroom teachers and their own professional development. Since the pandemic began and we all came home, we started offering online office hours for teachers on Tuesdays, and those sessions have all been recorded, and those recordings are available online. They introduce you to the different divisions around the library, to the library's maps collection, to our motion picture collections, to our prints and photographs, to historic newspapers, to manuscript division. I mean, there's so much stuff at the library, and getting these opportunities for, small bites of engagement to really understand the depth and the breadth of the organization. We've also been offering online webinars for teachers on Wednesdays. And today we were focusing on teaching literacy, information literacy with primary sources, and it was very well received. We had about 200 classroom teachers online this afternoon with us. And again, all of those webinars have been recorded and are available through the teachers page. We have a blog, especially for classroom teachers. It's the Teaching with the Library of Congress blog. And just last week, we launched a brand new blog just for parents and caregivers. We're calling that blog Minerva's Kaleidoscope. So you sort of have a sense of something sort of magical happening there. As Dr. Hayden said, you know, the Library of Congress is absolutely Congress's library, but it is also our national library. And all of these materials, whether it's Rosa Parks' recipe for pancakes or whether it's something, you know, specific to the state of Georgia. I was poking around the website today just to see what I could find. And I did a search simply on Georgia, and I narrowed my search with just maps. And there are about 1,100 maps of the state of Georgia available on the library's website right now. And again, like Dr. Hayden said, there is absolutely something for everyone. I think I'll pause there. I know you have some questions, and I know that we're going to weave into our answers so much more, but I don't want to be too, there are times when we are like a fire hose. There's so much to talk about, and then we have to hold back and say, oh wait, I'm doing it again, so I'm not going to do that anymore.
I second that, Leanne.
And Congresswoman McBath, I believe that we're going to go to some questions now that we have.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Hayden and Leanne. Thank you so much for that. And we definitely want you to expound upon your answers as we ask you these questions. I have a whole host of questions to ask you, and we're really looking forward to your answers. But thank you both for those amazing presentations. We really appreciate it. And I want to remind everyone that is in our audience this evening that my office will follow up with you with a PowerPoint presentation that has been presented to us from the Library of Congress. This is for your reference and to the email that you actually registered with. So there is a PowerPoint presentation for you to get an even broader and more in-depth understanding of what the Library of Congress offers. And now we'll begin our question and answer period. The first question I have this evening is, the question is, as parents think of activities to engage their kids and prepare them for the upcoming school year, what Library of Congress resources or activities would you suggest as a good starting place?
And Leanne mentioned poking around the library's website, that loc.gov, and the page that says engage, because there are several things that I would suggest. One is we are asking people to help us transcribe historic documents. It's an activity that it's on the By the People site. We're putting up things like letters to Abraham Lincoln, and you have letters from young people to Abraham Lincoln. And it's a good activity for a parent or caregiver with a young person, because a lot of these letters are in cursive writing. And so you could have the young person help with the transcribing or typing in on the computer what the more mature person who can read cursive writing is dictating. That's just a good interactive thing. It gets you thinking and trying to figure out and talking about things. We also have a program that we just put out. It's a little more fun, but it brings out the creativity and putting a report together, let's say, called Citizen DJ. And that's on that Engage page. And what it is it lets young people and the young at heart mix sound and video from our archives to make a creation of their own. It could be a song, it could be, you could put in even some of those historic maps, but it lets you mix and match activities. So you're getting the young people engaged with you on trying to put together something that could be a report. And if you get into any kind of situation that you want to ask a question, or you're like how to use things, we have a help button. It's called Ask a Librarian. And you just push that help button and you'll be in a live chat with a librarian. And Leanne, any activities you want to bring up? You mentioned the pancakes, that cooking,
I was going to say, you can always make pancakes. But and I'm glad that you mentioned the poking around, because honestly, there's nothing more fun than poking around on the library's website. And there are lots of places to do that. So in addition to the Engage page and the Families page and the Teachers page, if you're just on the main loc.gov page, at the very top of the page, there's a search button, and you can search for all kinds of things. And there's a drop down that gives you options of, do you want to look at just maps, or do you want to look at just photographs or manuscripts or sound recordings? If you pick the motion picture film, one of the things you might jump into is an area that we call the screening room. And these are historic films, and there are even some old commercials in there, and there are movies that were created by Thomas Edison that are silent films that are absolutely engaging and curious, and that's really the best part of the library's website, when you sit down with a young person and just start exploring and seeing what's there, because it's so wonderful when you get sort of sucked into something, and one thing that you find leads you to something else. And that's really the beauty of the pages. You know, once you land on a map of Fulton County, Georgia, and at the bottom it says, oh, if you like this, you're gonna like this too. And then you start, oh my gosh, it's just like, being on you can lose track of time in a marvelous way. And doing that with young people is such fun, because you get a real sense of what your kids are interested in. And there is nothing more fun than seeing what they're interested in, then realizing that, something a young person in your life is curious about really mirrors something maybe you're curious about, and you can actually learn together. There's a
And
lot
I
of
have
joy
to
in that.
I have to jump in and mention the Harry Houdini, the magician, his collection, where you could actually look at what he did in terms of his magic tricks and things like that. So just seeing what Harry Houdini, and also the Carl Sagan papers. At 12 years old, we have in his own writing and his really his drawing of what a space person would look like. And so you could have them look at that and then draw their own.
Well, thank you so much. I know I'm sitting here saying to myself, I can't wait to go on the website myself.
It's fun.
Well, the next question I have for you ladies is, do you have any references or resources for infants and toddlers and preschoolers for their education, especially for their own self-awareness, emotional development, and also social skills?
Leanne administers a special program that we have for literacy awards and the winners. So Leanne, you might want to.
Yeah, again, another section of the library's website is actually, you can get to it from the library's website, or you can get to it on your own, but it's read.gov. And on the read.gov website, there's a link to all of the literacy award winners that Dr. Hayden mentioned. The Library of Congress since 2013 has recognized more than 130 different organizations around the country and around the world who are doing extraordinary work in helping young people and helping adults learn to read and acquire literacy skills to be really engaged, not only with other parts of the library's website, but really in their communities, and just to love to read. On that read.gov website, one of the neat new features is an interactive map that you can look at. It's a world map, and you can see where all of these different organizations that have been identified by the library as doing outstanding work, you can find out where they are. You can find out, you can click on a link to go directly to the organization's website to find out more, to find out what they do, who they're serving, what these organizations are starting to do during this period online. Again, incredibly valuable work. Can't say enough about what these organizations are doing and the library's role in recognizing and helping to elevate the work that they're doing.
Thank you. Another question, is there additional assistance or resources that the Library of Congress provides for parents assisting students with an individualized education program, or students who have special needs. And I think you touched upon that just briefly earlier this evening.
Right. And Leanne, that organization in Massachusetts, that's one of our teaching with primary resource partners, is doing quite a bit with that.
Yes, in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, Dr. Hayden. So the library makes available, we have a grant program that's called the Teaching with Primary Sources Grant Program. And actually, I know that some of your constituents already know about that program because that grant program has funded some projects in Fulton County in the schools. But one of our grantees is up in Massachusetts, and the organization is called the Collaborative for Educational Services. And they are doing some really terrific work with students that have special needs in developing resources for those students utilizing the library's online digitized collections. They worked with us just a couple of weeks ago to do one of our webinars. So again, if you're on the teachers page and you go to our professional development section, you find our webinars. The webinar that they did was about 2 weeks ago. Again, the Collaborative for Educational Services. And you can learn more about the work that they're doing and how their work intersects with the library's collections and their efforts to serve teachers and students with special needs. So, and again, their focus is not just special needs, but they're doing really great work with ESL students, with students who are really acquiring literacy skills. So a great organization to learn more about. And again, more and more of the work they're doing is online. So even though they're in Massachusetts, what they're doing is available to those of us in any part of the country.
Thank you. Well, you know, what are some of the positive steps that you think that you've seen some schools do towards getting prepared to, you know, getting our children prepared for the fall? And also, how is it that the Library of Congress is able to assist them?
Well, definitely going, and some of the steps that we've seen is that they've been connecting and partnering with a number of organizations and having and participating in sessions like this. And on the library's website, just directly, is loc.gov/teachers. And that's where you see quite a few items that will really help them target right in. They don't have to poke around, they can go straight in. And Leanne, you've been working with a lot of school systems in the last few weeks.
Yeah, and our teachers blog, again, that Teaching with the Library of Congress blog, is where we're beginning to provide more and more examples of strategies that teachers can use during this period of remote learning. Today's webinar, in fact, the one that I was mentioning earlier this afternoon that we were doing on information literacy, the approaches that my colleagues were taking to utilizing the chat function during the webinar was so well orchestrated. And one of the teachers who was online was commenting on it because we know our teachers are out there thinking about how can I make sure that my students are engaged when I'm not in the room with them, and figuring out how to take advantage of not only the content that the library is providing, but the kinds of tools that are becoming available. You know, whether it's a webinar platform, whether it's a slide sharing platform, whether it's, you know, we've been doing some interesting things just as part of our team meetings at work lately. One thing we haven't mentioned yet, Dr. Hayden, are all of the recordings from past national book festivals.
Right.
And I think these are an amazing resource because, you know, the library has been hosting the National Book Festival now for 20 years. This will be the 20th year. And that means we have literally hundreds of recordings of authors talking about their research, about their books, engaging audiences. And those recordings are all available through the library's website. And what an approach that we've been playing around with is watching one of those recordings while keeping the chat of a webinar open so that we can talk, sort of, it's like passing notes. That's the way I look at it. We're chatting about what we're witnessing in the recording, And that approach, that deliberate discussion approach, is a really fun strategy for engaging students in a conversation about something that they're all doing simultaneously that might really work with some of the library's resources. So like I said, we're trying out some things so that we know, oh, if that worked, we should mention that to the next group of teachers we talk to. So it works. It's in fact, we did it the other day, Dr. Hayden, with the conversation that you and Lonnie Bunch had. Lonnie is the secretary of the Smithsonian, and he and Dr. Hayden had a marvelous conversation. And that's exactly what my team and I did. We watched the conversation and then we chatted about it real time. And it was a really great way of engaging in a conversation. And I think those strategies with our book festival talks could be pretty exciting for classrooms as well. A different way of thinking about how do we engage with a cultural institution and a classroom discussion at the same time.
I mean, I imagine that you've had such increased traffic right now, more than you ever have. And I think that, you know, a lot of teachers and parents that are home educating their student virtually have found you to be a gem for them, a treasure trove for them. So I'm really glad, in some sense of the word, that people are really being able to use creatively all of the resources that the Library of Congress has. I'm getting excited now too, because I'm a big nerd for reading and learning, and you know, I'm excited because now I'm really paying attention to what you're saying. I'm like, I can't wait to get
Oh, good. Wait to hear about the book festival.
Right. Well, you know, there was a time that I homeschooled my own son, Jordan, from 4th through 8th grades. And I wish I had the understanding of all the tools and resources that the Library of Congress had. But I'm so glad to know about them now, as I'm sure a lot of our viewers are this evening. Another question. Teachers across the country, they had to shift on a dime. I mean, overnight, to remote learning when schools closed for in-person education this spring. And, you know, I've heard from countless numbers of my constituents, because we've actually done webinars and we've done teletown halls. And I've spoken specifically to my teachers, administrators, superintendents, and also our teachers unions about, you know, the challenges that they've had. And I've been listening to the stories in specifically of our teachers that have been going above and beyond to stay connected with their students and, you know, make sure that their learning is continued. But I know that this shift has been, you know, intensely challenging for, you know, the teachers and for students and for our parents. Does the Library of Congress have any professional development resource to help teachers plan effective virtual lessons for their students? Because that's what I hear a lot of parents are asking for. They know and recognize that outside of the learning that the teachers are posing to the students, that sometimes the students need individual assistance and help. And there's just something that helps in that development for them as well.
Before Leanne gets into the professional development part, I just want to mention that for the families and the challenges, because we know that the educators have families too, and they are juggling what they do. We have similar to the teachers blog, we've just put up a families blog, and you have discussion and information about how you can help juggle that balance between your professional responsibilities and your family life and being having the young people in the home. And Leanne works specifically on the professional development activities for teachers.
Yeah, and so if you're on the library's website and you go to loc.gov/teachers, one of the 4 big buckets on that webpage is professional development. And if you click on professional development, you'll learn about upcoming webinars, as well as get access to recordings of past events. In addition, on that main teachers page, there's also a link to the Teaching with Primary Sources Consortium. And the consortium are organizations that work with the Library of Congress. These organizations have received grants from the library, and they are all working on developing curriculum and developing professional development opportunities for teachers as well. So chances are good there is an opportunity for a workshop, a webinar, a professional learning group on just about any curriculum, any curricular area. Most of the materials at the library, when people think about primary sources, there's a tendency to think, oh, those are great for a history class. But frankly, primary sources are great across the curriculum, and they're not just ideal in a particular, grade span, but really they're appropriate across the curriculum and across the grade spectrum. A couple of our Teaching with Primary Sources partners have been developing apps and online interactives. And in fact, one of our more recent ones is a group they've developed an app called Kid Citizen. And their focus on this app is on teaching the skills of citizenship for our youngest citizens. So the target audience for the Kid Citizen app are children between kindergarten and 5th grade. And every one of the activities in this app involves resources from the library's primary source collections. So again, all of the information about these apps, all of the webinars, all of the online office hours, all of that information is available through the loc.gov/teachers website.
We know during the COVID pandemic that, it's required the Library of Congress and libraries throughout my district to change how you've been engaging with the public. As we discussed even earlier, just expanding your ability to be able to reach more people and offer them more resources, as we all have been creatively using technology in ways that we haven't used before. I guess what I'd like to know is what have been some of the biggest adjustments for the library, and what advice do you have for local libraries and librarians in order for them to be able to stay connected with the communities while the in-person learning at this point is limited?
Just like Leanne has been working with teachers and educators during this time, I've been also reaching out to the public librarians in particular, because that's really my background in terms of having a public library at a time. And it's been difficult because the libraries are closed physically at a time when they would be the resource, the community center in so many ways, the place where people could go and get online and do all types of things during a challenging time in communities. We had it in Baltimore, and it was the public libraries were those resources. And so what libraries, including the Library of Congress, as we're physically closed, we've been opening our virtual doors and connecting and partnering. For instance, there's a Center for the Book in each of the 50 states. And we've worked with the Georgia Center for the Book that's part of the DeKalb County Library, making sure that we connect with local authors and programming. We've done some cool things with our partnership with the Smithsonian and the National Archives. We had a Hamilton play watch party when it was broadcast directly, and we connected with the libraries throughout the country. And they called it a historical smackdown in a way. So when something would happen in the play or the musical, the Library of Congress would put up Hamilton's last letter to Eliza, and then the National Archives would put up their document. And so just partnering and being open to this virtual programming and being together, because that being sure that we promote each other's programs and also make those available. The National Book Festival, for instance, we will be having a special connection with local libraries because it's all virtual this year, the 20th year. And we are doing, it will be the weekend of September 25th on a Saturday and Sunday. And we will be working with a broadcast partner as well as a social media partner to have different authors being able not only to talk about their books, but take you into their studios, take you into the places that they write their books. And that will be a really exciting thing. So that will be a special outreach to the public libraries because they are doing innovative things. One library is having drones deliver books. Other libraries, and I know in your counties, they are taking their mobile units and going into communities to be the hotspot, to be the place that people could connect to. So there's a lot of innovation going on and a lot of partnerships. And so I would encourage the librarians that are participating to make sure that they connect with us too.
And Dr. Hayden, I want to add that if there are librarians and teachers in your community that are doing some creative things and have really good ideas and need a little funding for those ideas, the library does have, like I mentioned a little earlier, our Teaching with Primary Sources grant program that you can learn more about through that teacher's page. Those small regional grants can sometimes go a long way, and now's a great time for really creative ideas to come to the fore and let us help support some of those things.
And that $20,000 can go a long way.
Yeah.
Now that's real amazing news. So I think we may have touched upon this a little bit earlier too in the beginning. How large is the Library of Congress collection? Once again, I really want people to understand just how extensive it is, just so that they really know what's made available to them and what percentage of the collection is available online and how do we access the said collection. Once again, I think you mentioned this earlier.
Right,
I want to make sure that everyone understands what's available to them.
Well, thank you, because when you said it's the world's largest library, it is. It is 171 million physical items, and that includes all types of formats. Half of the collection is in languages other than English. So we collect in 470 languages, and 61 million items are digitized. So that's a pretty good chunk, and we're digitizing collections constantly. We have the papers of 23 presidents, 36 Supreme Court justices, including working with the family of Sandra Day O'Connor and Justice Ginsburg. We have Frederick Douglass's papers, Thurgood Marshall, you name it, the Wright brothers. So all of those collections are listed on our website, and that's a real key to all of the collections, the digital items and the items that you'll be able to get a connection to. Even if they're not digitized, you'll know that we have them in the items through LOC, libraryofcongress.gov/collections. And that takes you to the map collections, 41 million photographs, and a lot of them are downloadable, like Dorothea Lange and Gordon Parks when they were doing the World War II, the program that was federally sponsored. So we have those. And so you have newspapers, the online exhibits, but all of these things, the real key is through loc.gov. That's the website. And you don't have to have any special log on or anything. You just get on and go.
Is the Library of Congress website available in other languages? Yes, it is.
Yes.
You answered that question. So do we need to, this is a very simple question, but do we need to apply for library card in order to use the Library of Congress?
No, and that's the best part. That way you could you don't need a library card to access the library online, but once our reading rooms and the buildings are available to the public, we will get a reader's card, and it starts where you could have access to the actual physical materials. and you can get a reader's card starting at 16, and you can apply online through that website, and you can pick up your reader's card in person, and we hope that that will be soon. But you can definitely get online right now. You don't need a card, and you can just really explore.
That's great. Well, I think that's probably the last of our questions. Ladies, I do want to give each of you a chance, though, just to say anything that you want our audience to know. I know I can feel your love and your passion for knowledge and wisdom and giving that to our students and our teachers in the world. Is there anything you want to say that you want us to know?
What we want, and Leanne will join in too, we want you to know that we want this treasure chest that is the Library of Congress. It's the nation's library, it's your library, and we want you to know that we want you to just enjoy it. You can see our excitement, because one of the joys that we both have is opening up this treasure chest for as many people as possible. And we want you to know that we'll continue. And we also want any suggestions that you have. Once you start poking around the website or using the resources, please let us know how we could help even more and what we could do to improve what we're doing. And Leanne?
All I wanted to add was that we keep hearing and talking about everything being, you know, it's virtual learning and it's remote and it's distance, and it sounds like it's a sad moment, but I really want to stress that all of these materials that are available to us are the real thing. These are the authentic materials, and there's something sort of exciting about this moment too, because the more we realize that these cultural institutions like the Library of Congress and these resources that are available to all of us really are available to all of us, and we make use of them, it makes this moment very much an authentic moment as opposed to a virtual moment. And I really, again, the more we explore, the more I mean, Dr. Hayden, the reason the document exchange with the archives in the New York Public Library was so effective is because, you know, the papers of Alexander Hamilton that are at the Library of Congress, you know, I'm sorry, but the other institutions just can't match.
No, they can't. Historic slapdown.
I love that. I love it. Yeah. So much good stuff. But thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank
and I
you,
really
Congresswoman.
do hope that people do some exploring and really find things that you connect to in the library. There are things, I guarantee you, if you explored, we didn't even get into Chronicling America. We could, that could have been a whole session, but those are historic newspapers. You can go look in historic newspapers and do a search on your family's name, and it's kind of creepy what you might find. I mean, there's great stuff.
So thank you, Congresswoman, for letting us be a part of this and sharing what the Library of Congress has.
Dr. Hayden and Leanne, thank you both so much. This has been so informative. Before I hand it back to Congresswoman McBath for some closing remarks, I want to let everyone who submitted a question, and we may not have been able to get to your question tonight, know that we'll be sending those questions to Dr. Hayden and Leanne and our friends at the Library of Congress, and we'll make sure that we follow up with you so that we get your question answered. But again, thank you both, and Congresswoman McBath, I'll hand things back off to you.
So thank you, Adam. And I'm so glad that we were able to answer so many of your questions today. Dr. Hayden and Leanne, thank you so much for lending your time and your expertise on these virtual resources that are available to not only myself, but my constituents and all of America. And my staff and I love the Library of Congress. I'm going to do a little plug here. I'm an author. I got a book there. Anyway.
All right, yes. Look her up online.
But thank you so much for the truly great value in the work that you all do for us in Congress and for all of America. I know that my staff, they use a lot of resources at the Library of Congress. And I hope tonight for everyone has been informative and educational, but above all fun. I've had a lot of fun, and it's critical that we continue to navigate this pandemic, especially during the start of the new school year. And we need to continue to make sure that we are listening to the public health care experts at the CDC and practice very smart, everyday prevention tips to keep ourselves healthy and safe. And also keeping our friends and our loved ones in our community healthy and safe. Make sure that you wear a mask. Please make sure that you wear a mask. Practice your social distancing and continue to take good care of yourselves. That's vitally important that you do so. I know that these are very difficult days, but I know, as I always say, we will get through these days together, and we'll be better together when we've gone through them. If you want to make sure that you receive updates or invites to more webinars like this, we will continue with these kinds of series. Or if you have any issues with the federal agency that my office is able to help you with, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We encourage you to visit our website at mcbath.house.gov, or please give the district office a call, and our number is always 470-773-6330. Once again, the number is 470-773-6330, or you can just visit mcbath.house.gov. I hope all of you continue to use my office as a resource. We are always here for you. I love hearing from all of you about the things that matter most to you and the things that are most important to you and your families. Once again, I want to thank all of you for joining us here tonight. Thank you so much for taking the education of your children so seriously during this very, very difficult time. Thank you for your dedication to our community. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, and God bless.